sprinkles or sugars, and then also 2 different ways of marbling and drizzling. So the first thing I have here is some already chilled pops, and they're ready to go. And I have some melted candy. So this is one of our melted pots here, and I have some candy already melted here. So one tip that I have is sometimes the candy might get a little thick if you've overheated it, or if it's been sitting out for a while. So one thing you can do is add 2 teaspoons of shortening or easy thin to about 1 bag, which is 12 ounces, or 2.5 cups of candy. It helps to thin out the candy, and it makes it easier to dip. Okay, so I'm going to take our chilled pops, and now this is really important. You want to make sure that they're fresh from the fridge or the freezer. The firmer and chilled they are, the better. So I'm going to dip into the candy. You want to be gentle. And cover it completely, and then tap the side. This is really important. I'm going to get a nice even coat. So here is a perfect example of what happens if your candy is too thick. As you can see, it's started to separate a little bit. So a simple solution is to add some shortening or the easy thin. So I have some shortening here. And I'm just going to add a little bit to it, about 2 teaspoons, and stir it in there. Really want to incorporate it good. This is a really helpful tip to use because it can be frustrating if your candy gets too thick and you're not getting the look that you want. So make sure you stir it well enough that it's incorporated really good. Okay. That should do it. And then we'll try that again. So we're going to take one of our pops. Actually, I have one here. And we're going to dip it. And I forgot to mention when I was adding the shortening, it's better to melt it first and then mix it in with the candy. It just helps to make the process easier when it's already melted. So now, as you can see, this is working much better. And we're tapping it to remove the excess. And once you see that not so much is coming from the tapping, you can just slide a little bit of the excess candy off against the side of your bowl. And you might get a little point like that, which is fine. You can either smooth it out with your finger now, or once it's chilled, you can use your finger to rub it out a little bit, or use a knife to just kind of get that part off. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we did these ones. That you see here. So I'm just going to do some concentrated sprinkles on the top. This just gives it a different look. Instead of covering the whole thing, just a different visual appeal to your pop. So this one is going to be resting upright. So you're going to want to put it, okay, so I'm going to set it over here. Now's the time when you're going to want to make your decision as to whether you want your pop to be resting like this or if you want it upright. The reason you need to decide now is because if you're setting it like this while the pop is still wet, it helps to form a little base for the pop to stand properly on. And now I'm going to show you a way to do the upright ones and how that works. So I'm going to set this aside. And now we're going to work with this candy here. And it's going to be the same process. I'm going to dip this one. And now I used a long stick here. This is a 11 3/4 inch long lollipop stick. You could use shorter ones if you want. I like to use it because I can always trim them, break them off, depending on how I want to display them. Okay, so once you have this tapped off, and we're going to remove the excess. Like that. Now this one's going to be totally covered in cake sparkles. So here, I'm just going to hold the pop over your bowl that you'll have sitting out. and you're just going to completely cover it. It's so simple and easy. And this is why you want to cover your pop immediately, because when it's wet, it'll just adhere really well to your pop. So just like that. And now this one's going to be displayed the opposite way. So what I have here is styrofoam. This helps a lot for your chilling and even your displaying if you want to. So I'm just going to insert it into the styrofoam, and this way you can pop it in the fridge to chill again, and it'll have a base. You won't have to worry about ruining your round pop. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is the pink jimmies. So same process again. We're going to gently dip it and cover it completely, tapping off the excess, and then removing a little bit like that. And same thing, we're going to cover this completely in jimmies. And this is really great for parties that if you have a certain colored theme. This is a great way to incorporate your food with your colors and your theme. So you can have rainbows of shades. You can have one solid shade. It's pretty endless. The possibilities that you can come up with when it comes to pops. So once you have it totally covered, then same thing, I'm going to add it over here with this guy. And you can chill it. And then they'll go in the fridge and they'll chill for about 15 to 20 minutes. Depending on what your project is. So these are simple ways to decorate your pops immediately after you have dipped them while they're still wet. So another thing you can do is dip your pop and then chill it and then add embellishments afterwards. So I'm going to show you how we did these pops here with the addition of a swirl. So here I have a pop that's already been dipped and it's been chilled, and what I'm going to do is take piping gel in a parchment bag. You could also use the same candy that you use to dip it in a parchment bag as well. Either way works. And we're going to pipe a swirl all the way around the pop. And this will act as glue to hold your sprinkles on top. So if you didn't want to do a swirl, you could do lines, you could pipe lines with it, or dots also. If you wanted to do like a polka dot kind of look. So you do that all the way around. You can make them spaced out more or tighter together. So once you have your piping gel on there, then you'll just go to your sprinkles and add them. And they'll adhere to your glue, which would be either, like I said, either your piping gel or melted candy. So sometimes when I'm doing a design like this, I'll go back after I sprinkle, and you can, either use your finger or like a knife, a butter knife or something, and just smooth out so you get the sprinkles in place the way you want them to be. And then these are ready to go. They don't need to be chilled again unless you use the candy melts. Then you can pop them in the fridge for another 5 minutes or so. So these are just a few ideas for you as a starting point for single dipping your pops. And next I'm going to show you different variations with double dipping and multiple dipping. So now that I've showed you ways to decorate your pops with single dipping, I'm going to show you different ways you can double or multiple dip. So the first one I'm going to show you, the ones you see here, these are double dipped. So the first step for this is you take your chilled pop and you're going to hold it a little different than in the first lesson I showed you. You're going to hold it on the side like this. And we're going to dip half of it as best you can. It's hard to get it exactly down, and that's why we're going to cover that up. I'll show you how. And then the tapping part's basically the same. For this one, actually, since it's going to be upright, you can use your finger and tap it like this. And that way the excess will come down. Downwards instead of from the side, and then you're going to do the same different ways you can double or multiple dip. So the first one I'm going to show you, the ones you see here, these are double dipped. So the first step for this is you take your chilled pop and you're going to hold it a little different than in the first lesson I showed you. You're going to hold it on the side like this, and we're going to dip half of it as best you can. It's hard to get it exactly down, and that's why we're going to cover that up. I'll show you how. And then the tapping part's basically the same. For this one, actually, since it's going to be upright, you can use your finger and tap it like this, and that way the excess will come downwards instead of from the side. And then you're going to do the same process of swiping the bottom And so I'm going to chill this side and then we'll do the other side. So once it's chilled and you do the other side, I have one here that's already been completed with both sides done. And a way to cover up the seam, which sometimes may not be perfectly down the center, or it might be a little wobbly. We're going to cover that up by adding some piping gel and sprinkles or cake sparkles. So all you do is just pipe some of the gel, use it as your glue, and we're going to pipe it right on the seam there. And then go to our sparkles here, or sparkling sugar. And we're just going to sprinkle that on, and then it covers up that seam nicely, and it just adds a little extra look to your pop. And that's simple. That's how simple it is for this one. And then these ones are ready to go. And then next, I'm going to show you how we have these pops that you see here that are multiple dipped. And as you can see, these ones have different lollipop sticks on top. It just helps to add even more dimension coming up through your pop instead of just the pop being a focal point. So what I have here are, this pop has already been double dipped. So basically what I did was I dipped it into the pink color, removed the excess, chilled it. Then I dipped it in the purple, chilled it, and I dipped it about 3/4 of the way up. And then once that's chilled, you're going to go back and dip it in the pink. So I have the pink here, and I'll show you how we do that. So I like to hold it over your bowl and just dip a little bit and then turn and dip a little, just so you make sure you don't dip too much in one area at once, because once you have it covered with the candy, it's kind of hard to go back. So once you have the amount that you think you want, like that, then same thing, you can use your finger, kind of tap it off like that, and then swipe off your excess, and then put it on your sheet to chill again. And now here, this one I have triple dipped, and we're going to add a 4th layer of color to it. So we're going to go back to our purple, and we're going to dip it again. And this, just be gradual with it. It's better to work slower and make sure you have your lines the way you want them to be. And then tap off the excess like that, swipe it, and put it back, and then you're going to chill again, and then it'll be ready to serve. So here are some variations for multiple dipping, and next I'm going to show you how to marble. So now I'm going to show you some other techniques, and the first is marbling. So here we have 2 different variations of marbling your pops, and I'm going to show you these ones first. This one is a more defined look, and I'll show you how to achieve that. So first thing is dipping the pop. I have a burgundy color here. I'm just going to cover it completely and tap it just slightly. And then we're going to take our candy that we have here in bags, and I've already snipped the edge, and you're just going to add some lines, circles, squiggles, whatever, just to get some color on there. And then once you have the color, you're going to Use your finger to tap this more. And this adds, by doing this while it's all wet and you're tapping it, it's going to help pull the colors down and give it a swirly, almost marbly look. So once you have the design you want on there, and it's every time you do it, it's going to look different, and that's good. That's what you want. So we're going to remove the excess, and then this will go in the fridge to chill. And so next, I'm going to show you a different marbling technique that gives you a more subtle look. So we have our bowl of candy here, and then we're going to take any shade of candy that you want that's in a bag. And we're basically going to just make a little swirl in your candy. And then with a toothpick, just swirl it around just a little bit. You don't want to get too carried away. Just a little bit like that. And then we're going to take our pop and dip it in the swirled candy. Like that. So as you can see, it's a very soft look. It's not going to be as dramatic as the other marbling way that I showed you. So once you remove the excess, you can see the swirling. It's just another fun way to get that marbled look. And then we're going to chill that one as well. So the next thing I'm going to show you is some drizzling techniques. And so this just gives you a little different look. I'm going to show you this drizzling technique first. And it's just more defined. It's a little more structured than the marbling. So it starts off the same way. We're going to dip it in our candy. And this time you want to remove as much excess as you usually would, because we're not going to be tapping as much with this look. Okay. Okay. So we'll bring this one back. And now we're going to take our bags of candy again, and we're going to pipe the lines, and this time you can be more structured. So you can have more creativity as to which way, how you want your lines to look, which colors you want more of. And now once you have the lines there, we're just going to tap just slightly, just enough so the color starts to bleed into the base color. So it becomes one solid look, like that. And we'll remove the excess again and chill it. Now another tip you can use if you didn't want to use your bags is a drizzling spoon that we have here. And this is really simple. You can just dip it in your candy and drizzle onto your pops. So this is a really great handy tool to use as well. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to make these pops here. This is another drizzling technique. Now this one is done once you dip your pops and you chill your base, which I have a chilled one here, and then we're going to follow through with drizzling on top. So for this can get a little messy, so I always like to have parchment down. When you're working with this method. And here I have candy in a parchment bag as opposed to a disposable bag. And the reason I do that is with the parchment bag you can get a little more defined look when you cut the edge. With the disposable bag it can be a little more random. So this just helps to give you a more defined piping look. So just squeeze out a little bit. Sometimes the candy can harden up at the base a little bit, so as long as you just squeeze out a little bit, it'll be fine. Okay, so with this, we're just going to pipe, and this is pretty random too. I'm going to cut it a little shorter, a little more off of there. So just holding your pop over your parchment covered table or whatever, just to pick up the excess, you can drizzle over your pop like that. And you can be as generous as you want or as light as you want. It all depends on the look that you're going for. In this way, if you wanted to add more color, you could have several different colors in a bag, do a few of one, and then switch out to the other. So then that's there, and then I'm going to put this in a styrofoam to chill until it's set. So those are just some techniques with using candy alone. In the next lesson, I'm going to teach you how to do some hand painting and some more detailed piping. So I'll see you then.